So, what does Samantha think? Does death exist?
No, definitely not. It is
Is
just a change in vibration, basically. Our body deteriorates and it has a deadline for the body, but the spirit carries on and we will never finish. So our journey is an eternity, really. And life in Earth is just one little step of our whole existence.
Hi, my name is AJ Parr, author of over 20 spiritual books and comparative religion researcher. I started out this channel dedicated to near death experiences and the afterlife with the object of bringing hope to those who fear death, bringing hope to those who have lost a loved one, and bringing hope to those who want to communicate or have communicated with a dead friend or relative and are seeking for answers. And today, precisely to help us understand this topic and find some answers, we have a very special guest, all the way from New Zealand, the Brazilian Spiritist Samantha Maciel, founder and coordinator of the Chico Xavier Spiritist Group of New Zealand. Hi, Samantha. Welcome.
Hi, Jay. Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I'm really glad you came, Sam. We're going to talk about the afterlife and communications with the dead and a lot of topics that are really interesting for those who follow this channel. And for those of you who do not know her, for over a decade, Sam has studied the Spiritist doctrine. We will talk about this later. Okay, I'd like to know who was Chico Xavier and how did he evidence that life after death exists?
So Chico was this amazing, simple, humble person. So he's a Brazilian guy. I named my spiritist group Chico Xavier in honor to him because for me, he's definitely, after Jesus, he is the best person that has ever been to Earth because he was such a great human. And what he did, so since very early stage, like when he was 5 years old, he found out that he was a medium. But for kids, this is very natural. So at first, he didn't know what it was because seeing people that have already passed away, it just means that it was someone, not necessarily someone that for him passed away. So he wasn't afraid of it. He could hear spirits, he could talk to them just as I'm talking to you. So that was something very natural for him at 5-year-old. And so for him, the whole process was natural. He always had this ability. And mediumship, it is an ability that it is inserted in the world for everyone. It's not, spiritists cannot claim as, mediumship is only for spiritists or for such religions. Including if you don't have any religion, you may be a medium. It's not related to a religion itself. So Chico, so since he was 5, he has this mediumship really, really well developed. And then throughout the years, when he finally met his mentor, Emmanuel, so Emmanuel was his mentor, and we all have our mentors, like our guardian angel. The spiritual mentor that we have, their job basically is to guide you through the life, for you to help you to achieve what you have planned in the spiritual world, what it was planned for your incarnation. So when he met him, when he saw him, he was about 17 years old, and then so Emmanuel had this message to him to say that he had a lot of work to do. There was a lot of work that was expected from him. So he would need to be committed and have a lot of discipline to do this work that was expected from him. But he accepted the job, just as Allan Kardec did as well. And then that's when he started psychographing books. So when psychography, basically, it is an ability that a medium has to capture the message from someone who is already passed away, so who is just a spirit like us. So there is the spiritual world and the physical world. The spiritual world, it is the main world because it exists no matter what, and then the physical world is the one that we are now, that changes all the time, that it can disappear one day if that's the wish for God. But the spiritual world is the real world. So with Chico, so he met his spiritual mentor, Emmanuel, and then he had this message for him that he had a lot of work to do. He accepted the job, and Emmanuel always told him that, this is a job that you will be, as a medium, you are just an intermediate between both worlds. So because not everyone has the ability to understand and to give us more clarity about the spiritual world, we have mediums that can work in between to facilitate the communication, and that's what he did. So Emmanuel explained him that this is not your work. It's not something that you have studied to do. It is a natural ability that you have. And being a medium doesn't mean that you are a special person and you should be treated differently, or, so mediumship is a commitment. It's not a gift, and it's given to you for you to work helping others and doing good, making the difference where you are. And that's what he explained to Chico, and then Chico could totally understand. So he wasn't allowed, and he wouldn't anyway, charge anything for his work.
Basically, what impressed me is that Chico only went to primary school, never finished it, and did not have a formal education. However, he did write over 500 books, and I've read several of them, and I am amazed because they are not only are they well written, but he wrote it once. He did not write a draft and then work on it till it became a manuscript. No, he wrote out the manuscript directly. So when I read his books, I can feel that whoever wrote it was really a writer. And another thing that really impressed me is the case of a couple of teenagers who were playing with a gun, and somehow there was an accident, and one of the boys was shot and died. And the family of the boy who died accused the other boy of killing their kid and took him to court. So he was being trialed, and during while he was being trialed, someone went to see Chico and asked him to help them. And Chico talked to the spirit of the boy who had died, and the boy who had died dictated a letter that Chico wrote and signed. And they took it to the judge. And when the judge saw the signature, it was exactly the same signature that the dead boy had. And he accepted the testimony. What did it say? The letter simply said, "Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. We were playing with the gun. It shot by accident. My friend killed me, but it was an accident. He did not mean it, please."
Exactly, yeah. And I think like in this case, it was one thing that we try to evaluate as well when we have a message in a psychography. It's not only the writing that may be, that it is always exactly the same of the person, of the spirit who passed away, the signature, but also the content of the message. Because imagine like that you have passed away and you want to give a message to your brother who is ascetic. How would you do that? You wouldn't just say, "Hi, brother, I'm here," and that's it. Life doesn't, death doesn't exist. No, you would actually put in the letter contents that it will be just confidential to both of you, or something really particular about your life together, or about himself, something that will show him that you are you, right?
Yeah, like a nickname or something like that.
or mention like something that you guys did together and no one else knows about it. And that's what happens on the psychography. And that's why it's such a trusted tool, I think. And that's why it was okay to use it in this case in court. Because not only the boys were friends, but they were playing, they were kids and they were playing, and then it was an accident. And for the Spiritist doctrine, and that's what Jesus would do as well, we take a lot of consideration for what the intention was when something happened. So let's say it could be that you have done something wrong, and then for everyone it looked like it was just an accident, but it wasn't. Truly inside, you do have the intention to cause the harm to someone. So although our physical loss agrees that it's not your fault, we know that, deep inside, that you intended to do that. So our intention counts a lot. And in this case, of course, what happened is that someone lost their life, but it was an intention. They were friends, they were playing, and there was no intention on it. So I think in this case, it was a great example where the spirit came forward to tell his story. And then with all the information that he provided the parents, and the parents were the ones that were convinced that, okay, this is my son talking. I know it is him. So we can't actually blame his friend because he didn't have no intention. It was really an accident. And that's very common because in psychography, just so you understand as well, like in this case of a boy, so when it is someone who recently passed away and you get a message, usually the good spirits bring the spirit there, close to the medium to be able to give the message, but they have a lot of assistance as well because they're not fully prepared to do that just because they have just passed away. So when it's too recent, the spirit usually needs, some time to adjust. And then so when they first pass away, just like this boy, for sure he had a lot of assistance from the spiritual world to be able to give this message. And that was a really important message because imagine a child being blamed for something and I don't know, going to jail or paying somehow, being punished somehow for something that they never intended to do. Yeah.
Okay, something else that also impressed me was the movie Nosso Lar, which is called in English Astral City. The origin of this movie was a book written by Chico Xavier. However, it was not really written by him. A spirit called Andre Luiz dictated this book to him, as well as dozens of other books. So Andre Luiz, who was Andre Luiz? He was a doctor that died and went to heaven and passed through the intermediate world of it's called the
umbral.
The umbral. Okay.
Yeah.
So this umbral, it could be like it's not really hell, or more like purgatory. It's a temporary place where you go if you do not believe in God and are not really, if you still need things to learn. Okay. So this movie, I believe the movie Nosso Lar is the most detailed information about the afterlife. The movie and the book. We were talking that you were mentioning that the book is even more detailed.
Exactly.
And, they talk about life in this other world. In this other world, there are streets, buildings, trees, people, music. Can you tell me more about that world as it was depicted in Nosso Lar?
Yeah, so from Andre Luiz, as you mentioned, there is a whole collection of books, and they are amazing, especially for when you are starting studying Spiritism, because it tells us the real experience about someone who was incarnated just like us and then died. So Andre Luiz, as you mentioned, he was a doctor. with a lot of bad habits and addictions, just to drink a lot. And he wasn't very charitable. He was just like us, a normal person that has a lot of things to work on. And then when he passed away, he goes through this journey, and then after he learned, then he's given a job to do this and work with Chico to do this work about telling us more about what he went through. And that's just because the idea was actually to give us a whole picture of how it happens with normal people, because sometimes we read books that are about really enlightened spirits and things that are about Jesus, that you look like, oh my God, it's so far from my reality.
Yes.
I really cannot relate to them. And the books for Andre Luiz, because they were just like us, it's a great example of how we can learn more and really see ourselves in his shoes.
Something that strikes me is the fact that the descriptions made by the spirit of Andre Luiz are almost identical to those experienced by people who have had a near-death experience. A lot of people go to this place called heaven, where there are trees, there are people, there are even animals, flowers, everything. The colors are brighter, everything is more vivid. There is a great peace in everyone's hearts, and it's a magnificent place to live in, What can you tell me about Spiritism, and what is the basic belief in this doctrine?
Okay, it is. So just to start, I would like to say that it's very complex to explain a lot about the Spiritism doctrine, because it is very wide. But I do my best, to the best of my knowledge, to help you guys out. So as a spiritist, I understand that the Spiritism, the base of the Spiritism, and what I always say in my group as well, is that we try to understand, we start to understand the communications between spiritual world and physical world, because in the end, the only difference is that we don't have a body anymore when we are in the afterlife, as we call, so just in the spiritual world. So in the Spiritism, we work a lot with our self-development. We do understand that by developing ourselves is the way that we can help ourselves and help the environment and help the world where we are inserted. By helping others, we help ourselves as well. So through charity is a big deal on the Spiritist doctrine, and the relationships between both worlds, because when we understand that the spiritual world is just the real world, and we are here on an experience, a physical experience, then we don't really have a reason to fear to be there.
My experience has taught me that Spiritism is basically a Christian doctrine, although it is based on reincarnation, and most of the philosophy behind it coincides with what the Hindus taught thousands of years ago, and also the Buddhists, who also talk about reincarnation.
Jesus Christ is the base of the doctrine. So if you get the books that we use, that has been codified by Allan Kardec. So if you think about the Gospel, for example, the Gospel according to Spiritism, which is one of our main ones for study, it is all based on the moral laws that was taught by Jesus Christ. So the whole doctrine, this is the base of it, like what he did that we can do. And we understand that because we have all been created simple and ignorant, as we say, we all have the same opportunity to get there and to develop ourselves and enlighten ourselves, to be like Jesus Christ one day. Of course, we are all in different stages, because we have our free will and we do whatever we want with that. So we will develop in different times. But yeah, Jesus is definitely our biggest model and the one that we want to follow.
Chico Xavier also mentioned, as well as Allan Kardec, the existence of intelligent beings in other planets.
Yeah, and one of the chapters in the Gospel, according to Spiritism, explains about that, about different words, different categories of words. So he explains that all planets actually have life, absolutely all of them. What happens is that if we go to a different planet looking for life as there is in Earth, we'll never find them, because there are different types of words, they're in different levels of development, and they have a different density as well.
What would you tell someone who has watched the video so far and is probably either expecting to die because they are in their final stages, or someone who recently experienced the death of a loved one, or someone simply who fears death? What would be your advice in those cases?
I think, well, when someone lose a person that they love, it's really complicated for you to say something, because I think it's something that I would say we need to prepare ourselves throughout our lives. And that's why it's so important to study, because you only fear what you don't know. So when you study and when you understand what happens, then it's a much more easy to accept situation. It's not easy, and you will still miss them. This doesn't change. It never changes, because love is love, and if you miss someone, you miss someone. But you understand what's happening. You understand that it is a new beginning. The person that now is just a spirit, they will carry on and they will keep developing on the other side, just as you have to move on here as well and keep your development here. But yeah, my advice is really to get into studying, because it does help us a lot. Like, I've learned so much, and I'm definitely a better person now.
So what does Samantha think? Does death exist?
No, definitely not. It is just a change in vibration, basically. Our body deteriorates, and it has a deadline for the body, but the spirit carries on, and we will never finish. So our journey is an eternity, really. And life in Earth is just one little step of our whole existence. Thanks
a lot for the interview, and I'm going to put the link of your Facebook group, the Chico Xavier Spiritist group of New Zealand. Congratulations for what you're doing, and thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Zé. It was a pleasure.
We're going to end this video with a trailer of Nosso Lar, Astral City. So take a look at this. This is a really great movie, Nosso Lar, Astral City.
Olá, André. Como está?
Que lugar é esse? Quem são vocês? O que aconteceu aquilo comigo?
Todas as suas perguntas vão ser respondidas no tempo devido.
Lises, eu preciso de explicações.
A vida na Terra é que é uma cópia daqui, André. Mas tudo aqui tem um porquê e um sentido, como você vai ver.
Meu Deus! Como posso mandar uma mensagem para a minha família? Eu preciso vê-los.
Como ele era, Clarice?
Ele era um homem bom, não tinha muito tempo pra gente.
Amados irmãos, uma grande guerra de alcance mundial começa. Milhões de almas voltarão em breve.
vou esperar anos e anos para retornar. Vamos embora.
Me perdoe.
Há corações orando por você.
André, o mundo precisa de histórias felizes.
Um dia você vai entender. É sempre tempo de recomeçar. Alguma vez você imaginou vida depois da vida?